the moment.
Okay, thanks, Hashim. It's Tim Hannaford speaking. Yes, what I intend to do, thanks for the introduction, and thanks everybody for taking the time to join this short presentation today. What I intend to do is, I've got quite a few overheads to show, but what I intend to do is to spend time with about 8 or 9 overheads, just giving you a brief background on how the app came about and the history behind it. And after that, the rest of the overheads that I'll show will be basically an example of how to set the app up on your phone and how to actually operate it. So let's make a start. SKF knows that of all bearing failures, about 18% of all bearing failures are as a result of improper bearing mounting. So it's critical that when a bearing is mounted, and it's not a simple thing to do, it's an involved process and it must be done properly. If it's not done properly, not only does the bearing fail and the equipment fail, but plants suffer downtime and lost production costs and so on. So mounting is a very critical thing, and the whole basis of this app is to make sure that bearings are mounted properly. SKF, in talking to maintenance type people around the world, received a lot of information. And the sort of comments that we received were things such as, you know, I work with so many applications, I don't have time to become a specialist. It'd be great if we had some sort of mobile app or electronic way of finding information easily so that we can mount bearings properly. It's hard to find this information without interrupting the work that I'm doing. And it'd be good if I have some sort of information or app or some sort of system so that I can share mounting information with my colleagues. What this app does is basically it gives you mounting assistance at your fingertips. There are various ways that you can search within the app to find a particular bearing that you might be trying to mount. It can be done by typing the bearing part number in, or the designation can be scanned on the barcode of the bearing box. Once you've done that, you can then check the bearing details to make sure that you have the right bearing before you proceed. So don't worry too much if you don't pick up on all this stuff in these overheads, because I will go through a step-by-step example a little bit later on. It allows you to mount bearings with confidence. Once you've selected the bearing that you intend to use, this app will take you through step-by-step mounting instructions and mounting preparations, so that you can be confident that you have all the information that you've got, all the equipment, all the data that you need to make sure that the bearing is going to be mounted properly. And you can then tick on a checklist to make sure that you haven't forgotten something that you would later rely on. There is a journal section within the app, and by journal we don't mean shaft. By journal we mean sort of like a logbook, which allows you to keep information within the app and share that with a team that you can create and colleagues. So you can, as I said, you can create a team within this app, share information amongst your colleagues, and once you have gone through all the steps of the mounting instructions within the app, you can create a report in PDF format, and that report can be shared amongst team members that you may have created and shared with other people. So what's inside the app? Okay, in summary, this slide gives you a summary of everything that's within the app, and it includes, first of all, product information. So, okay, of course, the bearing designation, the bearing type description will be given, photos, description of the suffixes or the prime suffixes of the bearing are given, also dimensions of the bearing in the application. You're able to create an account. Although you don't have to, you can create an account, which is quite easy to do, and it's a good idea to do because it allows you to access all the features within the app. There's no fee, no subscription, and you can use the same password that you may have used for other SKF devices or apps. The mounting instructions are comprehensive. Once you've chosen how you intend to mount the bearing, information will be provided such as clear introduction, driver method, mounting preparations and so on, lubrication information that will allow you to mount the bearing properly. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the mounting journal is a simple way for you to record all the information that you're using to mount the bearing, including mounting information, products used, and so on. You can put that into a single document. You can create a team of people and you can share that information with your team members or send it off to other people via email or other sharing apps within your phone. Okay. So in summary, this Bearing Assist app, it's a new app. What it basically does, its intention is to save you time and effort when mounting bearings, to allow you to mount bearings properly, to increase the skills that you have about SKF bearings and how to mount them, and also to allow you to improve how you share the information you have with other people on how to mount bearings on a particular asset. And overall, it will allow you to improve the maintenance planning and reliability of your plant equipment. So it's quite easy to use. If people haven't already, it's very easy. All you need to do is to go to the App Store and find the SKF Bearing Assist app. And if you need more information on it, you can simply go to skf.com, last name, company, and so on, your email address and a password. Once you've done that, a verification code will be sent through to you, and you can then just verify yourself and open the app. Once you've logged in, you'll see this page on the right-hand side, and down the bottom, there's a couple of icons, bearing and journal. Okay, once inside the app, if you just click on the bearing icon on the left-hand side, it will take you into a start page. If you've been in this app before, you'll see a couple of teams that you may have created. If you haven't created any teams, of course, they're not there. So any teams you've created will be there, and you can view and manage those teams by pressing on the profile icon at the top left of the screen. So how to find bearings within the app. The easiest way to find bearings within the app is just to use the scan function within the app. Okay, there's three ways of doing it. The first way is to scan, and you simply just scan the barcode on the box of the bearing. And once you've done that, a photo, part number, and the description of the bearing comes up. Okay. Another way to search for bearings is simply to type in the bearing designation. So if you have, for example, a spherical roller bearing and you know what the designation of the bearing is, you simply type the bearing part number in, 22210, so on, and you can then click on the bearing or press on the bearing that you want to use for this particular application, and a description of the bearing will again come up, a photo, description, dimensions, and so on. The third way to search for bearings within the app is to use a filter function. So if you don't have the bearing box and if you don't know what the bearing part number is, you can use dimensions of the bearings such as outside diameter, bore and width, and knowing what the bearing type is. You can put this information into the app and up will come a whole range of bearings that might suit that criteria. If you do know a couple of the start part numbers of the bearing, you can also put that in and the number of bearings will be reduced. And then when you know which bearing you're actually wanting to use, you can just press on that bearing to have that installed in the app. And again, what will come up is a complete description of that particular bearing, a photo, part number. You'll also see description of the bearing suffixes such as C3, GEM9 if it's a lubricated bearings and so on. Dimensions will also be given and features of the bearing such as mass, limiting speed, etc. Once you've gone into that section and you know which bearing you are going to use, you'll see a part that says instructions. You can just press on that and the app will then ask you for how you intend to mount this bearing. So for example, in the case of a spherical roller bearing, it will ask you if you intend to use a tapered shaft, an adapter sleeve, hydraulic mounting, the SKF mounting method, and so on and so on. So you need to put that information into the app, decide how you intend to mount the bearing, and once that information has been put in, you then simply press on the Show Instructions part of the app, and a full list of information on how to mount that bearing will be given. For example, if the bearing is to be mounted using the SKF drive-up method, information such as hydraulic pressures, which hydraulic nut to use, drive-up distances, and so on will also be given. You'll also see down the bottom instructions such as mounting preparations and so on. So in addition to having entered the information into the app, if you do need to go back and change some information, you can simply press on Edit, which allows you to go into the mounting instruction within the app and change anything that you might have put in before. Once you're happy with what you've put in there, you can just update the settings and press back when done, and it'll save those settings for you. Once you've entered in all the mounting instructions, also within the app are mounting preparations, mounting procedures, and additional recommendations. This is in addition to being fairly generic information, such as in the mounting preparations, it gives you advice such as making sure that the mounting area you intend to use is clean, don't unbox the bearing until you intend to use it, and so on. In the mounting procedure, again, it will give you more detailed information, in relation to how you've chosen to mount the bearing in this case, including detailed drive-up distances and so on. Additional recommendations you can see on the right-hand side there will also be given, and that's in relation to things such as the lubrication, including how much grease should be used, what type of grease, the grease equipment, and so on. So you can also, at the start of the app, press on the bottom right in the journal section. And by journal, as I said, it doesn't mean shaft, it means like logbook or notebook on how you mount bearings. So the first thing that will happen when you press on journal is the app will ask you to create a team. And the first thing you need to do is to give your team a name. It doesn't have to, the team can be just with you in it, or you can invite other people to be a part of your team. So you might want to have a number of people involved in a team for mounting a particular bearing on a certain asset in a plant. Once you've created a team, within that team, you can then send an email invitation to people, and they will then become a part of that team. You can also, under the team's profile page, top left, you can also view and change teams. So again, in that part of the app, again, it's a simple way to create a new team, and in the same way, give the team a name and invite other members into your team. So you can see on the second shot here, there are two teams within this app, ILS Repair and ILS Production. Of course, when you started using the app, there'd be no teams there, and you can create them as you go. So if you are invited to a team, when you start the app, you'll see the teams that you've been invited to come up on your page. And again, you can view these teams under the account profile page. So for example, here you can select the ILS Repair team. And once you've selected that team, it will show you who in that team is involved in it. You can invite more people to join that team. And if it's a team that you've created, you can add more people or take people out of that team. And a team doesn't have to have any more members in it other than you if you choose to do that. So to go through in a step-by-step way how to use the mounting journal function, at the very start of the app, you'll see again the two icons at the bottom. And if you press on journal at the bottom, the first thing that will come up is select the team that you want to create for this particular mounting process. you can either choose one of the existing teams or create a new team. If it's an existing team that you've already created, such as ILS repair in this case, what you will see is on the last screenshot there, you'll see the mountings that have already been created within that team. So if you just click on plus, what will come up then is the app will ask you for questions on the particular asset that you intend to mount bearings on. And you can then type in an asset identification, which could be anything in relation to your plant, some way of locating a pump or a fan within the plant where it is, and you can give the asset a description. Again, it might be a hot gas fan or a cold water pump or what have you. Once you've done that, you can then just click create, and that will store that asset within the app. And another important feature of the app is that once you have added an asset to the app, it will ask you to give the asset a location. So again, within a plant, you can pinpoint where a particular app is, in this case, D22, and you can also put into the app a work order. So that can either be an SKF work order or a customer work order or some sort of way of tracing this particular mounting, if you like, so that it can be found again in future. So you've put a lot of information in for a particular mounting. You've put in a description of the asset, what it does, its location, and a work order. Some of these things, if you don't have the information, you simply don't have to put them into the app. What you'll be then asked to do is to choose who you intend to share this particular mounting with. Within the team that you've created, you can choose to share this particular asset mounting only with yourself, or you can choose to share this particular mounting with all the team members that you have. So once you've gotten to this stage, you've put a lot of background information about the app, about the bearing mounting into the app. What you can then do is, again, you can add a product. And again, as we mentioned before, so I won't go through it all again, you can add a product by either scanning the barcode on the bearing box or by typing the bearing part number into the app, or by searching under bearing dimensions and bearing designation type and so on. Once you've done that and chosen the bearing, it will come up on the app. Once you get to that stage, you can again go through the calculation and instructions section on the app. It will ask you, how do you want to have the bearing mounted, adapter sleeve, withdrawal sleeve, taper shaft, so on, hot mounting, cold mounting. Just make some selections, and all the information that you need, pressures, distances, and so on, will be provided for you. What the app also does is it gives you a list of precautions or checklist, if you like, of things that you need to do before you mount the bearing. So for example, let's just run through the review instructions and drawings, gather tools and so on, make sure the area is clean, associated components, unpacking bearings, lubrication and so on. Once you have gone through and you're satisfied that you've done all those things, you can actually one by one tick off on the left-hand side that mounting checklist, which will help you make sure that you've mounted the bearing or intend to mount the bearing properly. What you can also do is add more products being installed in the same way. So for example, if you have an SKF bearing housing and an SKF adapter sleeve, possibly even some other company's components, you can add those components into the app as part of the mounting process. Okay. Once you're happy that all the components that you want to have as part of the mounting process have been properly added in, you can add photos. Quite simple to do. Just take a photo of the shaft or the bearing or the failed bearing, the new bearing, whatever is convenient for you, and you can add that into the app. The last thing you can do is you can add notes of your own. So if there's anything in particular in relation to this installation that you want to add in, you can simply add notes there. Once you're happy with everything, you can just press save to save your mountings. And that will save this whole bearing mounting within the app. You've now got you can now generate a report on the whole mounting process. The report will be generated in PDF format. You can share the report within people of your team or to others outside, either via email or any of the sharing apps on your phone. Once you're happy with everything, you can then just press done, and that whole mounting process or report will be stored under your team as a separate mounting journal. You can see that on the right-hand side screenshot. Once you've done that, that's pretty much everything. So hopefully that takes you through how to search for bearings, information that you need to put in, information that you can get out. Once you've done all that, you can then go back to the start page that we see here. And if you want to enter a new bearing, you simply press on the bearing icon down the bottom left, or press on the journal entry to the right-hand side, and all done. So just a quick run through of what this app can do. I guess the three things to take away from this are: one, SKF now has a very helpful and very powerful app to help people mount bearings and to improve reliability, to help them share mounting of bearings with their colleagues, and the big summary is to improve asset reliability. So the app's there. It's very easy to install. So install the app if you haven't already. And I mean, I can give you a brief run through it like I have done and try and answer questions for you now. But the best way to become proficient with this app is to start using it. And it's quite simple to use. You'll find a lot of very useful things inside it, and it's very user-friendly and easy to use, hopefully helpful to you and helps improve things for you. So that's pretty much all from me for the presentation side. Thanks very much for taking the time to come along today. And I'll be around to answer questions if I can. If I can't answer questions for you, I'll try and get some information and come back to you. So.